Why is AIDS so deadly? And the answer is that almost nothing is happening when it's starting. It has a much longer time constant. It takes longer for things to spread. But in fact, what the children learn by doing the simplest of simulations that they can do where they understand every element of it is, hey, eventually they're all going to die. So it absolutely doesn't matter if the disease looks benign in the beginning. If it's contagious, if it's deadly, if we don't have a cure, we have to act now. Now, the important thing to realize is several hundred million people in the world are currently dying because the governments don't understand that. They're waiting until the saber-toothed tiger is visible because that's what their nervous systems are set up. But you can think of science as an imagination amplifier. It helps us imagine things so vividly that we can take action before the thing has actually happened. And the issues in the balance here for the climate are just this. If we wait until a disaster happens, it could take 10,000 or more years to recover. So we have to have imagination now, before it has happened, and we have to use science to help that imagination along. So why is science so hard to learn? Well, here's discovery learning going on, and the joke in the 60s was about discovery learning is, oh no, they're discovering the wrong things. Why are they discovering the wrong things? The answer is it took the best minds in history 190,000 years to even get going on science. You can't do discovery learning and teach science. You have to have guides. So Hillary needed Tenzing, and Hillary insisted that every photo of him include Tenzing in that famous assault on Everest. You have to have both. And we'd like to have Socrates as a guide, and we'd like to have Richard Feynman as a guide, and the people who did were very fortunate. And in fact, we're fortunate that the printing press came along because we have part of Socrates and part of Feynman there in a library if we can read. So when I was 9 years old there, I was delving into the library and I had guidance, but I couldn't ask the books questions. So I needed a teacher, my fourth grade teacher, and my teacher had something that libraries don't have. She had a table full of junk that you could build things from, because she realized a lot of learning has to be done constructively. And my ace in the hole was my dad, who was a physiologist who I could go to as a last resort. And so what we're talking about now for the next few decades is, since it is not possible to create the teachers that we need to give guidance for these tough subjects, it just isn't in the cards. We've never had them, and it's tougher now than it ever has been. We have to ask the question, how much guidance can a computer do besides doing all the wonderful things we know it can do? Can we actually put a Socrates in a machine? And I think the answer is no, not really. We have to do something else. We have to understand why books work, and we have to make something that is like a book but more active. So not just Plato's Republic in there, but we want to add computing to it, and not just multimedia, and not just being able to paint things, but to be able to make these dynamic models that allow children to understand the world better than most adults do today, and to pay heed to this, that the most important thing about what children say and what they do is not whether they're right or wrong, but in the information that they are giving us about what mental state they're in. And that is what gives good teachers the clues of what advice to give next. And so it's not really an anthropomorphic being, it's not a Socrates that we need in there. We need something that can actually listen to the kids. Okay? And in fact, President Obama said to the national academies in February, amongst his grand challenges should be learning software as effective as a personal tutor. I think this is the most important grand challenge for the next 20 years. Not just for Americans, but for the whole world. We live in a single world. Carl Sagan once said, we treat the planet as though we had somewhere to go after we ruin it. And we don't have anywhere to go, so we have to learn how to take care of it. And my final slide from H.G. Wells, this is more true today than it ever has been, and we cannot get the education that we need by teachers alone. We have to take a cue from how the printing press changed Europe over 500 years, in spite of the fact that there were teachers there, and think about what this wonderful new media we have can really do. Sure, it can do games. Sure, it can distract. It can imitate television. It can do all of these things. The most important thing it can do, though, is help children to grow up thinking better than most adults do today. Thank you.